Milomo iguteteka. For this running got me running out of patience. Patience. I'm at the verge of breaking. Sisi kuyenda baba. Nachoka kubisa. Lelo ndine ndoa. Maondo afoga. Ndalila kada kama chida kambi. Ena kumaseka. Abada ngorengela kunsambi. Soko sengai kamanda manu baba nyeya. Kanganda kita batala kundi kwanu baba nyeya. Mbuye anga sana menato bande. Nato bani amulenine. Mbuye anga sana menato bande. Nato bani amulenine. Zapati konzilibe mindu. Nato bani amulenine. Ule wasendi ende mindu. Nato bani amulenine. Zapati konzilibe mindu. Nato bani amulenine. Watagundi ende mindu. Nato bani amulenine. Mabulani obanga panga. Banjaro manga manga. Ulendo yamba yamba. Lelo zili teke. Ulira kwake kuyambira pati. Msakazi wano wakukali na pati. Mukapanda kulowerera. Nasekuli chete. Sisi kuyenda baba. Atopa kubisa nye. Lelo ndine ndoa. Maondo wafoga. Ndalila kada kama chida kambi. Ena kumaseka. Ngorengela kunsambi. Soko sengai kamanda manu baba nyeya. Kanganda kita batala kundi kwanu baba nyeya. Mbuye anga sana minato bande. Nato bani amulenine. Mbuye anga sana minato bande. Nato bani amulenine. Zapati konzilibe mindu. Nato bani amulenine. Ule wasendi ende mindu. Nato bani amulenine. Zapati konzilibe mindu. Nato bani amulenine. Watagundi ende mindu. Nato bani amulenine. Nato bani amulenine. Zapati konzilibe mindu. Nato bani amulenine. Watagundi ende mindu. Nato bani amulenine. Zapati konzilibe mindu. Nato bani amulenine. Timonga ukupweteka. Milomo iguteteka. What is running got me running out of patience. I'm at the verge of breaking. Sisi kuyenda baba. Nachoka kubisa. Lelo ndine ndoa. Maondo afoga. Ndalila kada kama chida kambi. Ena kumaseka. Abada ngorengela kunsambi. Soko sengai kamanda manu baba nyeya. Kanganda kita batala kundi kwanu baba nyeya. Mbuye anga sana minato bande. Nato bani amulenine. Mbuye anga sana minato bande. Nato bani
Good afternoon once again. This is Chance, your host for tonight and always God, Church and Politics. I would like to welcome you in a very special way. I'm excited to be here once again. From last week, we continued. This is a continuation from what we were talking about from last week. I've got the honor of presenting to you guys in the next few minutes one former judge in the Republic of Malawi who knows very well the judicial system and how it works and what's happening so far. Many questions were asked last week in regards to what is going on the ground. If you remember very well, the title of my, the theme of this discussion was who is fooling who. I thought surely somebody must be sitting over some justice. What's going on? It's irritating to know that there are cases that are piling up and seems like it's not going through the courts. Somebody must be behind this. Who's sabotaging who? What is going on? We want to see the arm of the law doing its work. But last week we got so busted with these myths that are in our heads, the preconceived understandings, or if you like, the things we think we know, but actually we don't know until you come face to face with a former judge, somebody who is a theorist, somebody who is a philosopher, somebody who has to teach in universities and has the capacity to to educate us in terms of what is law and what's going on, who has the power to do what. So far, last week we were picking up stones to throw at the DPP. Wait a minute. Maybe it's not even the DPP. Let's go deep into it. Maybe it's the SCB. Is she doing her job or proper? We were picking up stones and he goes, no, wait a little bit. We will want to find out what's going on. So before I can actually introduce Mr. Mwaungulu, who is ready to come on, trust me, he's very, very much ready. But before I can bring him on, I need you to do me a favor. Okay, this is an interaction. I need you to say hi. Come on, let me know you're on. Also, invite somebody else in the comment, okay? I wish I was Jerry Flowers. He goes, drop a line in the room. Say something. Who are you? Where are you watching us from? Welcome. Before he comes on, like I said, I'll be honored to introduce Mr. Mwaungulu to you. My heart calls him Dr. Mwaungulu. He refutes that because, he is Mr. Mwaungulu. But I have that deep respect about this man. Before I can introduce him to you, I want you to invite your neighbors, invite somebody else that we're on. God, Church and Politics with PC. Stay tuned. Monday, the 8th of August. It's beautiful in the United Kingdom. Actually, it's scorching hot. It is. I'm sweating. I've tried to open up the windows now. It is, but I can still feel the heat. I don't want to be funny myself because it's going to make noise, but I want to make sure that you're able to hear me and I'm able to hear Mr. Mwaungulu. But before he comes on, I need you to do me a favor. I need a shout out, all right? Let's go into the comments. Who's where? Oh, Miracle Mukiwa. Good afternoon. Where are you watching me from? Surely from Malawi. I know, of course, but I gotta maybe you've flown to some nations. Say something in the comments. Somebody say something. Where are you watching us from? Right? Okay, so let's go to let me go to my Facebook page. Do I have anybody making noise there? Not yet, but where are you watching us from? Tell me before I can bring the big man with me. I want to know, are you connected from where? Okay. As I said last week, it was an intro, if you like. I felt like I was in class with the man who's teaching what law is all about, and especially with the laws of Malawi, wanting to know what's going on. Many frustrations going on because there are so many cases that somehow it looks like the courts are just, avoiding these. But in actual sense, it's not. It looks like, and some people were saying that our SCB is not functional really. Others began to call her that probably she's colluding with some people that know they are at fault and they don't want to be seen to be going through the courts. Somehow, something like that. I remember, frustrations is everywhere. The truth of the matter is that I know of my friends that are actually posting on Facebook, some of them calling calling for the head of SCB because it seems like we're going nowhere. So many cases, so many things that are being brought to the fore, to the public. But somehow, according to the DPP, there's not much evidence that probably he or she could take it further into the courts and fight these guys and bring them into jail. Okay, apparently, according to Dr. Salos Koschim, who's the vice president of Malawi, he says our prisons are full of people that shouldn't be in there. The people that should be in there are still hanging out and about, roaming around, loose. People that are stealing billions and millions. People that are actually sabotaging the process of a corrupt, free Malawi. People that are actually at the heart of these systems not functioning proper seem to be getting away with it. People who steal a chicken are easily caught and sentenced. I mean, you have the truth of the matter is that if you go back, I think a month, if not 3 weeks or 4 weeks ago, 4 weeks is a month. If you go back 4 weeks ago, there was a ruling against one of the boys. I think it was 18, if not 19 or 20. But according to Judge, what was the name again? Do you know, I pastored this guy. I'm not lying. I pastored this guy. What's the guy's name now? I've just forgotten now. I pastored this guy in Derby. Yeah. He is now one of the high court judges in Malawi who passed against this boy who was found with jamba. All right. What is Indian hemp? Okay. So the boy was found with some bags and bags of Indian hemp. And the judgment that was passed was that, is it 8 years in jail or something like that? The whole public went ballistic against how, why? Okay. But then I hear before that, there was a guy of, if I'm not wrong, is it of Indian origin of something, who is international, who also was found with bags and bags of Indian hemp. Guess what? Got away with $1 million kwacha bail, because he was able to pay. He is not in jail. And so there was a public outcry. How on earth does that make sense? A boy of 18 years gets a jail sentence of 8 years plus or something like. Christian, come on, remind me. Yeah, good to see you, my friend. I know you're always in the first one. Today you've been beaten by miracle. But Christian, remind me. You remember that story? You remember that story that was in the papers? Everybody was raging against it. How on earth do you put a boy who's got a lot of future ahead of him, 18 years, into jail for eight years, jail sentence, when in actual sense, somebody got away with it? You remember that story, Christian? Come on, remind me. Okay, who's that judge? I'm saying it again. I pastored this guy. I'm not lying. I pastored this guy in Derby. Anyway, but that's the frustration when you have one person getting justice. That probably, if justice has to be equal, then both of them have to get 8 years. If that is the parameter, then everybody has to get 8 years in prison. But somehow one person got away with a bail payment of 1 million, quite 1 million, which is probably equivalent of £1,000. £1,000, somebody was spared jail, but because this boy is not worth enough, cannot even apply for a bail, and he was slapped with an 8-year jail sentence. Oh, the judge's name is Bison Masonga. Yeah, Bison. I pastored the guy in Derby. Never knew that he would be a judge one day. This is why I never underestimate people. Hey, I'm excited. Come on, bring everybody, let everybody come on in. I have Dunstan Mwaungulu with me, and I'm not lying. Let's bring the man on. Big man, welcome back.
Thank you.
It's good to have you. I know you've been listening, me making noise. This is me. I mean, I just wanted you to hear some of the frustrations that we Malawians have gone through, to know that certain cases have been weighed in, and sometimes the justice passed on this one is different from this one. Now, before you go back to schooling us as regards of our systems and the cases that are there in the nation, can you talk a little bit about this? One judge passed a judgment of something else, and the guy was bailed out for 1 million kwacha. And another judge, I've just mentioned, Bison, passes a judgment over a boy who was found with bags of chamber for 8-year jail sentence, who was 18 years. And there was a public outcry. I don't know whether you remember that story at all. What was assessed? What is your assessment, or what could you say about this?
Yeah. I would say that sometimes you have to be very close to the facts and to the file to see what the judge was getting
Okay.
in front of him, before you can actually make a good assessment.
Right.
Because a lot of people think that the most difficult part of the trial is when you are going to try somebody and finding them guilty. The truth of the matter is that is ABCD. The most
Okay.
difficult part of that decision is the punishment, which is the sentence you are going to pass.
Yeah.
And
Right.
the true, some other judges just take it as a light thing. Well, it is not. And it is a serious issue, serious thing. And if you have consulted with a lot of people, they will try to show you how it is that my judgments and my decisions and my insights have influenced sentencing considerably in the country. Um, and the idea was, how do you begin to come up with an approach or a method by which you can help sentencers to begin to avoid some of these problems? Because what
Right.
you're talking about there is a serious legal issue. Because if anything, um, everything being equal, then people who have committed the same kind of offense in similar circumstances should have the same punishment.
Yeah.
Otherwise, other one will be dissatisfied. And once there's dissatisfaction simply because you think that you are discriminated, then there is no justice at all.
Yeah.
So the case in which the one that you are talking about shows such disparity. If it was a sentence, but listening from you, I think probably at one point you're talking about being released on bail and you're talking about being convicted. So those are different things. Yeah, you can be released on bail and you can get 1 million, but it's not a sentence. That is just an agreement with you so that you are able to be tried and so that a proper sentence is actually passed. But if let's say it was not a bail situation and somebody else ended up just paying 1 million kwacha, in those circumstances, then obviously there is a disparity. And
Right.
in relation to the 18-year-old, the policy, a lot of people have not understood the policy of our laws when it comes to sentencing. The law really protects the first offender and protects the young offender, precisely because um, young people might just have played truant. It's not like they are going into a life of crime, but excitement and psychological pressures. They can commit very serious crimes. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, um, but you see, you have to move back and be able to say, well, of course, that is serious, but look at their age. And so you have to come up with some sentences which reflect the fact that you are taking into account that you are actually risking this child by sending them to prison in the first place, because when they are there, they can harden their criminal behavior. and therefore come back without any reparation, and they will commit worse crimes or more crimes than they committed if only you had spared them and not sent them to prison early in life.
And that was the public outcry of saying this boy has a lot of future ahead of him. Why
Yeah,
send him to jail and lock him
yeah,
up for 80 years?
yeah.
And
It's serious, and myself, I call these non-violent crimes. So if there are
yeah,
non-violent crimes, to me, that it's just a regulation, and they are trying just to regulate behavior. So myself, for those kinds of offenses, I want a bit of relaxation, whereby you are able to pass sentences that are meaningful, at the same time, to distinguish these kinds of cases from the very serious, what serious offenses like theft, um,
mhm,
murder, um, sexual offenses, and very high frauds and things like that.
right.
Um,
In your
so,
could you
so
could you
in relation to
could
this matter, my only I can
you,
say is that there shouldn't be, there shouldn't have been this disparity if it was a sentence, and secondly, that maybe more should have been taken to talk to look at the age of the child, and begin to see whether there were other things there, and whether in fact maybe he was just a pawn. There is no way a child like that would indulge in a serious crime.
mm,
Um, so it could just be a pawn used by people. Maybe they said, carry this or do this for us, um, in order to avoid crime themselves. And all these things
that
should have,
that is definite on the cards.
yeah.
Definitely
So,
obvious that this boy was just used as a pawn.
mm. And Wes, if you look at the 2010 criminal procedure um, amendments, you are able to see that they are putting now quite a lot of emphasis on the presence of a social welfare, to be able to say quite a lot about the child before a court actually sentences them. And I'm actually wondering whether um, a social service officer was invited to come and try to bring information,
We
so that
we
even if
these
they,
are
it was not, even if it was not a child, which is probably is, that's why they reacted this way. But this is just like the break-even point where somebody was a child and would be a man, and it's
mm,
just between 18 and 17. The difference is really nothing, and
nothing
therefore the
really.
court should be able to come back a bit and be a little bit more moderate. In fact, insist for a social welfare report and
And this is
establish
where,
whether that, yeah,
Mr. Mungulu, this is where you understand our frustrations as people because we don't know much what you're saying. Your assessment is based on, as a law
mm,
judge, somebody
mm,
who actually assesses the whole thing and then
mm,
comes up and says, surely this boy
mm,
needs to be
mm, mm,
vindicated in some way.
mm,
Christian Wedege says, justice as you know it is not for all. If you are poor and a nobody, then you have bad odds. If you have riches and can afford a good attorney, then you get fair justice. Is that what you think, according to this guy right here? Do you think that's what it is?
I would say that it is a fair comment, um,
Okay,
which means that looked at it, it's a fair comment because it's actually an observation.
right.
Um, I would only add that when you look at the law itself, that is not supposed to happen.
Okay,
Okay, and the problem we have in Malawi, not only in relation to criminal justice but overall, is that people don't want to go and find out the law and the procedures that are put in place to help out, because
mm,
some of the magistrates are just sitting there, the person is not represented, and they just, because they have been used to that way, they just act as a matter of course and begin to say, okay, yes, I'm going to head to the policeman, or I'm going to head to the state. But when you
mm,
look at the legal aid act, and
yeah,
the policies under it, the judge must be able to say there and then, particularly if it is a felony, to be able to say, I'm not hearing this person until there is a legal aid. In other words, let that person go and get a lawyer.
Right.
Okay. And the judge can order, there are a lot of pro bono lawyers around who can be asked, and they are likely to come and help. And the government itself, in order to fulfill this right, is supposed to make those funds available for poor people so that they can access the legal services. And when we grew up ourselves, I mean, when we were younger lawyers, legal aid was not as bad as it is today, because the lawyers there were really good people. The Musosas of this world, the former Chief Justice, the Mbalames of this world, and at a certain stage, the Chipetas of this age. And because they were good, they were able to win other cases, all the same ones brought by legal aid. Because if, let's say, you are a poor and you went to legal aid and you sued for personal injury, okay, and you have won the case, if legal aid is that case, the costs that should be paid to a lawyer are paid to legal aid. So it is self-financing. It's supposed to be sort of self-financing. And they had very good and solid lawyers then who could win a case. So we didn't have some of the problems that we are having now.
But then,
but my point was that today legal aid to me is a right, and in some of my judgments, I've actually stated that even a witness who is going to give evidence in a criminal case must have legal aid, because the idea is to protect that person from self-incrimination. So all I can say is I agree with you. I agree with what he's saying, because it is an observation and it's a fair comment. But when you look at the system, there is more to it than meets the eye. And just like we're having problems with corruption, we're having problems with the litigation by the government, you are able to see that the lawyers, to me, they are not doing much.
In the sense, Mr. Mwaungulu, when I've gone to court here in the United Kingdom, and actually the point you've just raised, I was amazed. I was asked a question: do you want a lawyer? And I'm like, I don't have a capacity to afford a lawyer. They goes, no. Actually, this is a government lawyer who is on your side. You can empty yourself. If you want somebody to stand for you, do you want a lawyer represented? I mean, this is a parking fine, for God's sake. A parking fine. But I've been told you can still go for a lawyer if you want one. Now, it's a question of whether that information is available. Do we have it available in our, in our systems when you go to court? Because it's like this: for an 18-year-old, kind of like you've been caught in the act. Do you have that capacity to know that there's such kind of availability of resources or services? Do we give it out?
Yeah,
like they do over here.
Yeah, is that not my point? I'm saying that the way our public office.
No. But you've just said, okay, no. What you've said is that it's available. It was available. Now, do we know even it's still available?
It is available. So what I'm trying to point out to you is that the way our public officers work on the matter is what is absurd. It's the same problems that we're talking about corruption, not cases not going through the systems properly, or the courts delaying. There is a bit of malaise, if you like. Lawyers are not coming up to the bid, because to me, that is an operational issue. Once you have been granted legal aid, you should be able to get your legal aid at the court every day as a duty lawyer. Who you met there, we will call him a duty lawyer. So if the solicitor is on duty that day, and as long as somebody is coming to have their case tried, they will be told that you should have the services of a what? of a
Of a lawyer.
DK lawyer. So it's up to
Right.
you to refuse. And I don't think most poor people would refuse. They wouldn't.
Right. Anyway, thank you for that, and for me, for highlighting the fact that we do have that kind of a service in our legal system. I want to bring you to the main issue still. Last week, you ended at bringing us to understand that SCB and DPP, they've got different powers, but then in the Constitution, the man who has the powers to make this thing happen is the DPP. But then the DPP will depend on the services of the SCB, who collects evidence enough, which the DPP has to be given to say there's enough evidence. Let's go through the courts. I hope I've summarized very well. But if not, can you sum it up? This is where we left you last week. SCB, DPP, what are their roles? And you explained it very well. Did I make a good summary?
Yes, I would say 60%.
Okay. I needed 100% if I was to pass this mark, right? But at least, okay, let's go ahead.
There is no way. 60% is basically generally a credit or a near distinction.
Okay,
yeah.
Not bad. Eh? I've not done bad.
Yeah.
Right, okay, let's go ahead.
But what I was saying was that I was actually trying to tell people, because it looks like this is exactly where all of us have missed it.
Yeah.
And that is
Yeah.
that I started by trying to show you that the Constitution is about recognizing our rights. Our rights are central to the Constitution, and they're central to everything that happens here, whether it's government, judges, citizens themselves. So our rights are central. So the Constitution provides for them. Then I said that the second function of the Constitution is now to allocate legal and legitimate power. Okay, and I said that this power is normally divided into the legislative, executive, and the judiciary. And I also said, if you remember, that the legislature actually has done quite a lot. They've gone quite some way to ensure that there is appropriate legislation to deal with crime and the procedures that the courts and everybody else should employ in order for us to defeat crime or to defeat corruption itself. And sometimes I feel like they have even gone overboard. Like in this particular case, I think that they have gone overboard by trying to take away the power of the DPP. So that comes to exactly why I'll give you a 60%, because then I said that in the Constitution, having given power to the legislature, has given different power to the judiciary. And my conclusion basically was that I think your blaming of the judiciary, to me, is not evidence based. So I don't want to accept it. I don't care who says it, whether it's the Chief Justice who says the judiciary is corrupt, whether the president says it. I don't care. I am convinced that they are not. Their statements are political because they are not evidence based. Because the truth of the matter is that even if you yourself, or just ask just a good journalist to go and investigate, just go to the courts, check the registers, find out how many cases were registered, you will be shocked. There's very little. And I said that even the fewest cases that actually get into the courts are already cleared very fast. The judge's corruption case was done within minutes. I myself, I remember I did the same case with a judge, Justice Mkandawire, then. Within minutes, it was done. And you remember there is this MP in Mzimba who was corrupt. It's gone. Somebody mentioned to me one of our fighters during the 1991-92 struggle. I forget him. He was a cabinet minister. It went. Even our own magistrate, you remember, the only judicial officer who has been tried and convicted of crime, within weeks, he was there. We didn't even care whether he was our fellow friend or not. He was convicted and started serving sentence immediately. So my point there is that the judiciary has done a good thing, and you must credit it. And so now it allows us to go and locate where I think the
Yeah.
problem is. Okay.
Right.
And I'm going to give you a story myself.
Right.
Um, um, when I was appointed registrar in 1990. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I looked at the prison population. It was huge.
Right.
And therefore, I myself, as the judge, and as head of the judiciary, I was registrar then, had to find ways of solving this problem. Okay, before it gets worse. And my motto there was that Kamuzu, you can think Kamuzu is a fool. But one of these days, Kamuzu just wakes up as a madman. And then he wakes up and he finds that the judiciary, and I am on my watch, that I have got all these cases and the courts have not settled them. I was not going to accept that. I refused it completely. And I wrote a letter myself under my hand, and I sent it to the Ministry of to the Treasury and directly to the Minister of Finance.
Right.
And I told the Minister of Finance, then Louis Chimango, that we must do something about this, because Kamuzu can wake up any day and tell us that we have a problem. He ignored it. He didn't even answer me. I wrote 3 letters, which is my practice. Whenever you're asking for something, write 3 letters. After that, it's just legal action. Don't go and stay on things. Write 3 letters. It should be 3 in about 4 weeks. If they don't respond, go to your next action. And they didn't respond. And I was about to go to the president. Then you know what happened? The multi-party started coming in.
Right.
And one of the issues that Malawi was criticized for was that it's people are in detention for a long, long time. Others were for political reasons, but even those who were criminals, were suspects, also had a long, long time to do. And it is then that when now Louis Chimango called me, this was the first time in my life, after 12 years, 13 years, let's say, I never talked to a politician. I never knew who politicians were. I was just doing my own thing. This was the first time that a politician said he wants to meet me. And it was Louis Chimango. This time they are panicking because they are now being criticized in every political quarter and in every diplomatic quarter about this issue. That's when he now comes to me and he says, Dunstan, now I want to look at the letter that you wrote. No, he says, we have got a problem. They're saying courts are delaying. So what are you going to do about it? And I said, but I wrote to you. And he said, yes, you did write it to me. But that is what under the bridge. As I'm speaking to you now, we have to do something about it. And I said, no, go and look at the budget. I put it for you. And he said, oh, Dunstan, now we don't have the money because the donors have cut out. Therefore, we're not going to do, we can't do the things that we are asking for. So he said, so what do you want me to do? And he said to me, so how are you going to help us? I said, okay, what money do you have? Give it to me. And all I did as registrar was to go and look for who I called my bulldozer magistrates. This was Isaac Newton Nyasulu, okay? Justice Chombo, the lady now. There was another young man in Kasungu, but he was also of legal training. And they were like 4 of them. I deployed them, first of all, in Blantyre. Within 2 or 3 weeks, we had cleared all the backlog. I moved them to Lilongwe, cleared. We looked for other places, we cleared. And I gave the results to the minister. They said, it's done. What am I driving at? I'm driving at to show you that when courts are assessed of the matters, they do act, and they act very quickly.
Okay.
And one of the ways in which you should do that is to encourage the director of public prosecutions and the ACB as a practical matter to make sure that they commence those cases in the magistrate courts, because that's where they belong. Judges are not supposed to handle a corruption case. It doesn't. That's not for it. the lower courts can come up and say, I can't pass a sentence, High Court, please pass it. But one of the major reasons why we're having some of these delays is because either for money or for reputation or for renown, people think that, oh, let us go to the High Court. It's a waste of time. I find no reason why a judge should be sitting now and trying a corruption case. Those are, we call those summary procedure cases. The evidence is very narrow. The investigations are very narrow. Let it go. And magistrates are very fast. They're faster than the
High
High Court judges, and that's why the lawyers make sure that they go before judges, because they know that before judges they can play around. Okay, they don't do that before a magistrate court. Okay, so as a seasoned attorney myself, and as a seasoned judicial administrator and judicial officer, I am going to go and tell the Director of Public Prosecutions and the ACB to commence all corruption cases in the magistrate courts.
So, Mr. Mwaungulu, so in your case, you are saying that the High Court is not really capable of handling these cases, but the magistrate should.
No, I'm not saying they're not capable. I'm saying that the High Court is very slow.
Right.
And that is the reason why they want the cases there. The lawyers want them there because they know that they can delay, they can pull up.
They can play around it.
Yes. You get before the magistrate, trust me, within 3-4 weeks you're gone. And they know the advantage with the magistrates is that they know that this is a publicity case.
Yeah.
And therefore, there is nothing I can do here. I just have to act and do it.
It's about their reputation more than them playing around with stuff.
Yes. While as a judge might be saying, hey, I'm the judge doing, and so what's the deal? Okay. Magistrates know. You go there through the system, you're done. You are done. Okay. If you are guilty, they will get you there. If you are also innocent, they will get you out. You remember what we call it, the Mezzigate thing involving one of the ministers. How long did it take to acquit that person? 3 weeks. 4 weeks is done. Somebody else went there, was convicted within 4 or 5 days. They don't waste their time like the High Court judges do. So let me move on, because otherwise I'm not going to get to the ACB and the
go ahead
again, which is really what you're trying to develop. But you remember that I said that I'm going to show you that I call the courts, the Director of Public Prosecutions, the ACB. I call those end institutions. Okay.
Yeah.
They come after the offense has been committed. So I myself, from a theoretical point of view and a jurisprudential point of view, I am saying that really investing all your money in those institutions does not solve corruption. It will never solve corruption. Okay, and so I'm going to move there and be able to show you that the constitutional arrangement is that the executive branch is central here. And I think that's why we're having all these problems. And one of the reasons why the executive branch is having problems is because it is investing so much in the Director of Public Prosecution, even on the ACB. They're investing a lot of money there. But this is the end. And only 3%, even less than 1% of all crimes, corruption, are going to end up in the courts. Face it. The investigations can only get up to about 1%. And therefore, it's time to wake up and begin to address these issues from policy, okay, rather than from law and the legal and judicial institutions. So I'll come there, and that's why I want to end.
Right.
But for now, let me come back now to the to the ACB Director and the Director of Public Prosecution. And I want to stress that prosecution power is a constitutional power.
Prosecution power is a constitutional
power.
Right.
It is given by the Constitution.
Right.
And the Constitution has given that power directly to the Director of Public Prosecution. It is not the minister. It is not the president. It is the director of public prosecution. So any other institution to which power is delegated cannot work and should not operate without the director of public prosecutions. That is why they put those consent provisions. Okay, because they realize that the power is with the DPP. You cannot leave all this power to an independent person. It's not answerable to the Constitution. It's not accountable to the Constitution. If you look at the ACB, what does it say? It's accountable to Parliament and then answerable to the President. Nowhere does it say that the director of ACB is answerable to the Constitution. Nowhere. Why? Because that is a constitutional issue. This is a constitutional arrangement. Go everywhere. Power is given to specific people to prosecute.
Right.
And in our case, it's the director of public prosecution,
Mr. Kayuni.
Mr. Kaira. And all these schemes that people are trying to put, give more power to the
SCB.
To the SB, to me, that is a serious mistake. Mistake. I know you can go there and raise your hands and pass it. It's not my problem. But to me, that's a very, very, very serious issue. Okay. But having said that, most of you have not actually read the act. That act creates the office of the director of public, director of
SCB.
Yes, the
director
of SCB. It gives that director the power to investigate.
Right.
And the power to prosecute. Now, all of you think that the act has given the director of the Anti-Corruption Bureau power to prosecute corruption cases only.
Okay. Say that again. So you are saying our assumption is that the SCB has got power to prosecute corruption cases only.
Yes. And that's how they go.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when we are criticizing the director of public prosecution, or the Minister of Justice, to you it looks like, oh look, you have got this power and you have this consent power and you have
power. Yeah. Why are you not using it? That's
why
true.
You not, yes. Okay. But when you look at it, the act actually says, if in the course of investigations,
right,
the ACB finds other crimes, the ACB can prosecute.
Okay.
And you know what is important there? For those offenses, the ACB does not need the consent of the director of public prosecution.
Okay.
So can you see?
Yeah, yeah.
It's balanced. It's not like a runaway act. So much so that
in the course.
Let me proceed a bit. So much so that I myself am really trying to understand why the ACB is not acting.
Right.
Okay.
We want also to know why is she not acting?
Is that not my point? Is that
of course. Exactly that's what I'm saying.
Yes, that's my point.
So reveal to us.
Most of the cases, okay, that are taking place now are being slowed down by the ACB. Because my understanding of the SATA case is that there are corruption issues there as well.
Right.
Just as there are very serious, more serious crimes about under the what do we call that act? The Money Laundering Act. Are you following me?
Yeah.
Now, if you are the director of public prosecution, you are sitting down there, there is corruption and there is money laundering.
Yeah.
Let me look at you. Let me start with you are now the director of ACB.
Okay.
You have got serious cases of corruption, okay, which are not as consequential as cases of money laundering, which is really probably the certain scenario, at least from what you are describing.
Yeah.
You have responsibility as ACB. You yourself have got responsibility as ACB director to be able to make a judgment whether really it should be you or the director of public prosecutions who must prosecute. It's a whole responsibility on you, so that where you understand that the matter really is so complex and there are important matters which really the director of public prosecution should handle, you shouldn't even be asking for consent. You should just be able to say, I've investigated this issue, I've got powers, but I think this is really not my area.
This is you now, take over.
Take over. Okay, so if you're going to go and start arguing with the director of public prosecution, you're just putting yourself in a difficult position, because money laundering is more complex than corruption, and money laundering is more serious than corruption. You should be able to use your judgment and be able to say, maybe this one I should not handle. Let me pass it on to the director.
Just leave it with Mr. Kayuni.
Because he's the correct person to handle those matters. And I've argued elsewhere that until recently, before they moved to Dr. Priminta, the expertise on prosecution of money laundering was not in the Anti-Corruption Bureau. It was in the Director of Public Prosecution. That's the place where that lady has got a PhD, and she did money laundering for her PhD. And then there was this girl, she's a Miss Joye. She was at the financial investigating unit. Those are the guys who are experts on this. And you yourself as an ACB must be able to come up and say, I think the expertise is there. So maybe after I've done my investigations, let me go there. But if you are going to find yourself where you are arguing with the director of public prosecution in matters where you know that you have the same power, you're just trying to create difficulties. And to me, there could be a point where one can say that your judgment is not very, very
right.
It's not very right. So I'm moving in to show you that the act itself gives power to the ACB to prosecute other cases, and in those other cases, the consent is not needed. The consent is only needed for purposes of corruption. Okay, and that consent was always required, even if it was the director of public prosecution's own officers, like state advocates. When they were going to prosecute, they could not come to court without the consent. They had to give the consent. Whether it was done by the police or it was even done by anybody else, if the director himself was not prosecuting it, you had to go and show a consent. Even the director of public prosecution, when coming before our courts, he cannot come up and say, I'm director of public prosecution, therefore I'm going to prosecute this case. He has to show to the court that he has actually consented okay, that he's going to prosecute. So these are very serious safeguards.
Is to some extent, and I know you're explaining very, very correctly. I'm still struck then as to so this is where we have a problem now, where the DPP cannot move further if she finds certain cases which needs expertise. She can't prosecute, as you're saying. Mr. Kayuni has to deal with certain things.
Yes, mind you, Sorry, and I apologize here because I didn't actually go to check the act. The act does not say, and I don't think it should say. Probably it does. So let me go and check the act again. Sorry. The act cannot say that the director of public prosecutions cannot prosecute corruption cases. The act can never say that. All it can say, and it's just reasonable, is you can also prosecute. That's all it can say. Which means ultimately, even if the director of public prosecution withholds consent, then it is the duty of the director of public prosecution to immediately prosecute. So you cannot come up and say, well, I want to kill this prosecution completely by refusing to give consent to the director of public prosecution, to the director of the anti-corruption bureau. That decision can be reviewed by the courts because he will still be required to prosecute the case. I hope you understand what I'm saying.
I know. Can you repeat that? Sorry. Just say it again for the sake of others and myself.
Yes. What I'm saying is that when you read the ACB Act, I mean the Corruption Act,
yeah,
it cannot say that only the director of
public prosecution or ACB.
No, ACB will prosecute all corruption cases. I can't see that. I may have to check it, but I don't think it can say that.
Right.
All it can say is that you as well have been given what? Power.
To prosecute. Right.
Which means that if the director of public prosecution says, I am not consenting, he cannot kill the case. It is now upon him to take up the what? The prosecution himself.
Okay.
So you should be able to pin Mr. Kayuni to say, well, Mr. Kayuni, you have withheld consent here.
Yeah.
So are you going to proceed with the matter? Because and then if he's going to proceed with the matter, then he has also to go through the same kind of routine which the SB goes, which is to establish the evidence necessary for them to prosecute. But it looks like the way we understand it as if the director of public prosecution has been weaned completely of the power to prosecute over corruption cases. I don't think that is right. So it may have to be checked. So I was trying to start that. I was trying to start that to you. Sorry.
No. In your case now, what I want, Mr. Mwaungulu, in your case, in terms of the solution, I know you've in the process of explaining. One of the things that I spoke to you about was you may have a suggestion as to solution to this game, because when you look at this, then there's a game being played right here. I mean, are we going to go anywhere in terms of do we know when the DPP is going to approve these cases? And because then in the end, I would believe that Martha, as you're saying, can easily say, I'll leave it with you, or maybe because she wants to be seen like she's doing it, she wants to go ahead even against the word of the DPP. What is the solution then? I mean, surely there's a game being played here. What is the solution for these cases to be brought before not the High Court, but before the magistrate?
Yeah, I mean, the solution there to me is very simple.
Okay.
It's acting professional. And I think that to me is the benchmark.
Acting what? Say it again. The solution is?
Professional. You have to act professional.
Right.
Okay. And if you are really a professional director of ACB, you are going to recognize the things that I'm talking about.
Okay.
Okay. And so that then you use those to inform your judgment. Okay. And your decisions. Because don't forget that the director of public prosecution in withholding consent might have very good reasons. And one of those reasons is that basically maybe he's not satisfied that
With
there
the
is enough
evidence.
evidence
Right.
or information, yes, on which even if the director of ACB prosecuted
Mm.
would end up in a prosecution, and any good professional director of public prosecution will say that this is the case.
Right.
And to me, if he comes and boldly says that, it's good because the director of public prosecution is not stopping the prosecution. He's actually just telling you to say, please go and do more work. If you do
Right.
more work, I will be able to allow you to prosecute.
To have a
Or
strong evidence to prosecute.
yes, yes. Or he might actually think that in that particular case, then if he doesn't see that the director of ICB might be able to handle it, like I've said, complicated money laundering cases,
Mm.
and he sees good the expertise is elsewhere, the director of prosecution should be able to shift to this other area and be able to say, can you do the investigations for me? This is
Right.
the line of inquiry. Do it
That
and
I
I'm
want
going
you
to
to undertake. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
So, but the moment we begin to interpret these, to me, these political things and put politics in these things, it gets worse because then, and when you are listening to public opinion, it gets worse because the public, first of all, does not understand it, and but they are,
and rightly so, Mr. Mwaungulu, because you understand our desire is to see that there is fruition. You know, there's fruit
yes,
at the end of this thing.
yes, yes, and I mean, I'm saying it's understandable
Yeah.
because the public is the actual beneficiary
Yeah.
of the justice system, and they want the good. It's not like the public is sitting down there and beginning to say, "Go and punish everybody." No, it's actually
Mm.
saying no, where somebody should justly be punished. Please do it,
A
which means
thorough
that
investigation.
yes, which means that if somebody is innocent and the court acquits, the public will accept if there is
Mm.
good explanation. But where you are acting in such a way that you can't even have a trial, to me, I'm not convinced. And
Okay.
if you read my judgments, I have actually stressed, okay, particularly when I'm arguing about bail,
Mm.
that bail is supposed to support the trial because the
Right.
trial is the only way we determine whether somebody else is guilty or not guilty. So the functions of a trial is not to convict, neither
Right.
is the function of a trial to acquit. The function
Mm.
of a trial is so that the matter can be investigated and justice seen. So that if there's an acquittal, there will be an acquittal. If there's a conviction, there is a conviction. But if people are holding themselves there, they don't want to come to the court. And I'm trust me, you are a pastor, but you have got other people who you can use to investigate. I'm
Mm.
telling you here, when you go and visit our courts, you'll find exactly what I'm telling you. That very few of those cases have actually
Go
come to
through
the
the
court.
courts. Go through the gates.
They are not there. And then the few that go there, 90% of the time, they are dispatched fast.
Within
And my
within
advice,
within within
yes,
within hours or
yes,
within
and
days.
yes, and I am arguing, okay, I'm arguing that please don't take corruption cases to the High Court. Don't
Take them to magistrate court.
take them to magistrates. You'll be shocked because
Mm.
like an FGM, investigate magistrate has nothing to lose. You just go there
Right.
and try the case. Yes, if there's a mistake, he says you can correct it
Yeah,
upstairs.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, and it's that which to me is our future.
And
They would try to drag you to the High Court, okay,
mm,
because they know
that they
that
can
there
play around there.
they can play around. So
So your
um,
advice, your
yes,
biggest advice is take these matters to the
yes,
magistrate because it
yes,
will be swept just like that.
And try it, because we have, at least from the numbers that I have, we have
Yeah.
241 magistrates in that country. 241.
Wow.
So why do you really want to go and say we're going to create another court when 241 can try those
Are
cases?
just sitting around waiting.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
I mean, and then you are more likely to have logistical problems, because it's either it means you have to have 23 financial court, high court, courts, because it's really difficult for you to go and try a bribery in Insanje to go and have it tried in Blantyre, let alone the one in in Chitiba, to be tried in Muzuzu. What for? These are very small crimes. Okay. And that is not to undermine the wisdom of
The High Court.
no, of the legislature in trying to introduce these courts.
Right. I know what
They
you
are
mean.
trying
Yeah.
to solve a problem, but I myself am actually convinced that there is no problem with the courts. Nobody should cheat you. There is no problem with the courts. These 230 magistrates can handle. And if I've said 230, so if the director of the ACB began to take one case today in this court and the other one in 1 week, they would have tried 230 cases. Trust me, because they're just going to prioritize them.
Mr.
But
Mwaungulu,
they don't want to do that, and that's now where I'm coming.
my
And
question
I'm
again
trying.
to you. My
Mm.
question to you. Is there a system by which DPP is advised with thorough wisdom like this one? Do, can you get this to the DPP in your case? Do you know that? Do you think he has this at his disposal, but he doesn't want he doesn't use it?
Yeah. I will tell you. Maybe I shouldn't say a lot of these things in public. Okay. Um,
Okay, go
I
ahead.
myself am always for people succeeding, and I'm sitting down here with 40 years experience, and I've told people
A big
I'm just
salute for that. Big
I'm
salute.
just I'm just a telephone away from you. I'm just a telephone away from you, and the um even when I was an active judge, I could get a phone from anybody.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
When it came to matters of law and practice, I was always there. And now that I am free now, my advice can even be more available because I'm not
Available.
involved. Um, so what I'm trying to drive at here is this: that
You are available.
yes, I'm available, and the advice can be given. They just have to call. Okay. Um, and the and the um, I am saying that most of
Because
our
one of
most
the things
like
that
our DPP and our ACB directors,
SCB, yeah,
director
yeah.
as well. Okay, when you look at them, of course, yes, there are fine characters, very intelligent in a way, maybe operationalizing. Sometimes I feel like they don't have the necessary experience.
Mm,
Okay, okay. Ukenachewa mati kuona nkhono, eti
hmm.
sikukulai koma kutani
Right.
kudeka. Now a lot of people
Kudeka.
don't understand that. Okay, they are saying they are not saying that age is irrelevant. They are
Mm-mm.
saying the important thing is kudeka.
Kudeka.
You see, because ukadeka, which means that the longer you practice the law, the more you know.
Mm,
You will have in your lifetime covered a lot of cases and a lot of experiences, which to somebody who is coming now has probably to read. But how much can you read? Very little.
mm.
But if you go to somebody who has had the experience, they will tell you the advice within weeks. I mean, sorry,
Mm.
within hours. Let me say something here, but I'm not going to talk to tell you who the chief justice who said these words to others
Okay.
about me. This chief justice went and said, Dunstan is the only person who, when you call for advice,
Mm.
will give you the advice there and then, and the chances are that it is very, very correct. But you see, that does
Mm.
not come from just intelligence; it comes from
Mm.
experience. Because
Kudeka,
yes,
experience,
yes,
the abundance of experience.
in my career,
Yeah.
the 40 years that I've been there is no minute or second when I have not applied myself fully.
Mm.
I have applied myself fully.
Mm.
And it is that the Mikwinki Williams minutes also, which are
Mm.
now are available. So when people begin to debate small things like that, they'll
Yeah.
find that I have a lot of detail. That detail comes from proximity,
Experience.
yes, proximity and application, and so on and so forth. So I am saying that sometimes maybe when we are looking at the office of the Director of Public Prosecution today, when we are looking at the office of Director of Public Prosecution, Director of Anti-Corruption Bureau, maybe we need maturity,
Mm.
long experience, sound judgment,
Yeah.
and these qualities come with time.
Time.
And so this is exactly where we are now, because trust me, that director Kayuni there is not
Mm.
going to stay there for the next 5 years,
Why? Why do you assume so?
because they will remove him.
Okay. If
So what do you do?
that is if the cases are not being put forward.
No, 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 no.
Eh,
Professional, they're going to move him.
okay.
So the person you are going to come now has to start the job all over again with
Over
no
again.
experience, and that's exactly that is exactly what is the problem in the Ministry of Justice. The staff rollover is very high. Okay,
Mm.
and sometimes the staff roll over between the judiciary and the Ministry of Justice. It's very high because people move from the Ministry of Justice quickly. They go to the bench. Okay, they don't even know how to make a bill of costs.
Mm.
They have not assessed damages. So I'm trying to give you practical things that I was seeing there. You go and sit there, the guy will just say, and I give you judgment. Costs will be assessed by the registrar. Because here I've never assessed. But if you're an experienced judge, you know exactly what to do. You do it there and then. And you award the damages there and then. Okay. You take a case to the high court. If you have been going to the high court and Supreme Court continuously for 4 or 5 years, you know exactly what to argue.
Yeah.
And I myself, I can vouchsafe some of the people who I have worked with. One of them is Manyungwa. He died now.
Mm.
Manyungwa and I worked for a period of about 3 years, himself as a state advocate. No wonder when you begin to read the judgments of Manyungwa, you are able to see that it's quality because we literally groomed um, one another. And I was not surprised that he became one. He became a judge and moved away from there to become a judge. So this is probably these are some of the things that the system has to look at.
Mm.
Tisiza kungo chite kuti oh chifukwa choti muntu anapanga zakuti basi ndo muntu ja basi ndiye akakhale judge anapanga zakuti yao ndiye kuti pano uyu akhoza kukhala director of public prosecution akhoza kukhala director of ACB. Yeah, it's not going to work. And sometimes I pity the new director
Mm.
because I have never seen that director in any litigation, in litigation or in intensive um, court processes. I've only heard about her as an ombudsman. But ombudsmanship is a mediation, it's not litigation.
Mm.
Um, so we may have to struggle. We must be able to give her time so that she begins to get the hard things about her job. Um, 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 and that is going to help the process. So let me
It's
move on and remove from here and go and say policy matters now.
okay.
Policy matters is because at the end of the day, the implementation of the laws is are executive functions.
Right.
So they are right in the hands of the president. Now I have specific advice for the president because it is the policies that are going to solve corruption. The courts, the ACB, even the director of public prosecution are not going to solve corruption. They are at the end of things after corruption has already occurred, which means that the president must be looking for policy um, must come up with own policies about how it's going to tackle. He says all the time, no, 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 we're financing, I'm doing everything. No, 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 that will not solve corruption because corruption is right in the public service where he himself, or the
That's
president,
very true. I mean, that
is the,
has been
is the most important person. Okay, and so I myself am going to tell you what I see to be weaknesses in his strategy,
right.
not as a point of criticism,
Mm-mm.
but as a way of trying to and for the president to understand
Right.
um, the how from a policy point of view, which is really the function of the president under the constitution. The
Right.
president is responsible for formulation of policy and
Mm.
formulation of laws. Implementation is for the judiciary. Legislation
Right.
is for the National Assembly or for Parliament.
Right.
Policy, policy is a function of the president. And if you read the General Interpretation Act and you read even the Constitution itself, it says the president makes those issues by making orders. He can make orders. So
Right.
the legislature passes laws. A judge makes a judgment. The policymakers makes orders, and they should be
Mm.
understood and appreciated and be obeyed, just like they are obeyed everywhere.
Right.
So if he begins to understand that he is supposed to be making orders, and his legal advisors and political advisors aim at making him to make certain orders, please, he is going to solve the problem. So from a policy point of view,
Mm.
um, he should be able to make other orders. In the United States, where it's more understood, they call them executive orders. So where the legislature and the judiciary are called creating a mess, the president can make orders. They are known as executive orders, and those are
And
going to be followed by the civil service.
okay, which I want. What would be the order that you would want from the president?
Okay. Um, First of all, I was just trying to demonstrate to you
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that
I get it. We get it.
this is the tool.
Yeah.
But don't forget that I was trying to demonstrate to you that this is a matter of policy. What you are going to do
Right.
with corruption is a policy matter. And so I
Mm.
want to move away from this other thing and deal with you with the policy issue. Okay?
Right.
The president hasn't come out with any policies or policy suggestions about how he is going to tackle corruption within government, which is his institution. Has
Mm.
he? Do you know anything? Nothing, literally.
All we
And
know is that
therefore,
he has appointed the DPP and he has
yes,
appointed
but
the
as I
SCD.
said, yes, but those are constitutional points. He is responsible for policy. He must come
Right.
out to us very clearly and say, these are my policies on corruption, uh, And having said that, issue what we call executive orders to carry out some of those policy suggestions that he's making.
Right.
Okay. So that also shows that from a policy point of view, the president is the only one talking about corruption. Do you know that?
Yeah.
Have you ever heard a minister, any
No.
of his ministers, talk about corruption?
Very few, probably. I mean, let's be
No,
honest.
nobody is there.
Huh.
So what does that tell you? It tells you that the president has not appreciated that corruption is supposed to be a policy issue on which
Right.
he himself is supposed to create policies.
Okay.
And so therefore, I myself would recommend to the president that he must have a minister for corruption. Directly,
Right.
this minister is responsible for dealing with corruption, because the president cannot be going everywhere. He's supposed to do economics, he's supposed to do policy, he's supposed to do this, he's supposed to do education, he's supposed to do. How does he do that? He can't. And that's why he's frowned. He's I won't get to use a difficult word, frowning. That's why he's sort of dry in terms of how he can get to the people and begin to show that he is actually fighting corruption. His only defense is that, no, I've left it to the judiciary. No.
The judiciary.
No, I've left it to the SCD. No. No, I've left it to Parliament for budget. No. What are your policies? And who, apart from you, is your czar? Who is your anti-corruption czar? You as alone, as government, as the president. He has none. Because he himself cannot fight. Or even if he tried, he cannot fight adequately. He needs a minister. Which means you are creating a department
responsible for handling corruption and dealing with corruption in his system.
Yes. Then you will have a PS.
Let's be honest, Dunstan. This thing is really rampant in our Malawi government and in Africa in general. And if we are serious about eradicating it, this is what I'm talking about. This kind of a sound advice. Why is it that probably nobody tells him this then?
Yes. That's what I myself have said. I've said. I myself I'm a lawyer, I'm a jurist, and I'm a political scientist. Okay. And if I really tried to turn political, I could do politics. But that's not my cup of tea. My cup of tea is systems. How do they work? And here the president, as I've said, must resort to orders, make correct orders, and then have a minister do this. And more importantly, let the ministers themselves be the ones now also talking about corruption in the same way, like their president is what? Is talking about. If they do that, it means they're going to sit in their ministries there, and they will be the first people to deal with corruption within their ministry.
Like just like in your advice, more like what he has done when it comes to one of the policies. He said uniting Malawians. He put a minister for it.
Yes.
He put a minister for uniting Malawians, meaning he's serious about wanting to make sure that this is infiltrated in every Malawian.
Exactly.
Why can't we have the same then for corruption?
And corruption is actually what we call
the rule of law. The rule of law.
It's the signature issue.
Exactly. The rule of law.
Now, he hasn't appointed a minister. He hasn't. So to me, that would be my advice, that he should have his own czar from the executive branch, not relying on czars who are in the legislative branch or czars who are in the judicial branch. From the executive branch, let him also have a czar. Okay. Then he is in charge of the civil service, and I'm going to end on that comment now.
And you have 3 minutes, Mr. Mwaungulu. 3 minutes.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yes. The president is the head of the civil service.
Right.
The civil service reports to the president.
Yeah.
When I
Yeah.
was listening to some speeches in the conference, they are content to say, oh, we created some committees in different departments. They called them ethic committees and so on and so on, to help to stamp out corruption. That is inadequate. The president must do two things: design a whole course structure on corruption. Let that be taught to every civil servant.
Mm.
And let every civil servant sign for it. Kuti waphunzira.
Wow.
Akasaina kuti waphunzira. It means
that they have understood this.
Yes. Then you
because to some extent, Mr. Mwaungulu, to some extent, yeah, go on. Sorry.
And make it very clear.
Yeah.
That understanding this concept of corruption well, there is an exam computerized, so there's no cheating. You will have to write those exams per computer. That computer will produce a certificate. That certificate will be put in your file and warned that if you haven't done this training for the next 6 months,
you're out.
Be dismissed. You're out. Which means that if there is a mistake, and make it very clear that then if there is any breach of these kinds of things, okay, you're out. There is no discussion.
And that's the main thing, isn't it? Where making a decision when this is consent, where somebody involved in breach of of trust or whatever that is required of them, they are somehow still massaged to say more like, don't do it again, stay here, don't do it again, and they keep on messing about.
Yeah. So, which if every servant has gone through that, you can even make a good thing like it. If you pass through this course, you are going to the next grade, or you are getting 3 bars of salary increases and things like that, just as a way of stimulation. But your idea is to make sure that there is no civil servant in your institution, in the president's office,
who's corrupt,
in the whole of the who has not done this course.
Right.
Because then if they do, then the consequences are clear to them. One, if they didn't train, they are out. If they do commit things that are different from what they have learned, they are out. Put some seriousness into the system.
And
the president is going to act. And as I've said, I'm willing to discuss these things openly with the president. Because this is not advising a politician. This is an intellect, in the intellect, trying to explain and develop concepts which will help to solve the problem, not only for him, but for other future generations.
One of the things, Mr. Mwaungulu, one of the things that I feel, which I felt from the word go when I knew that Dr. Laz is the MCP president vying to come into power, I said, I feel Malawi needs this guy because of integrity. Okay, I still hold him up there, but I felt here's this. I felt that God's purpose for bringing Dr. Laz into the system was so he can put a transparent system for Malawi to be governed. Even after he's gone, he leaves a transparent system. That has been my cry. I mean, the things you're talking about here, what are some of the things that you could say to this man so a transparent system is in place? So even if he leaves office in the next 2 years or 10 years, whatever it is, this is a government that cannot be altered in any way. I mean, where you are here in the UK, there are systems that govern, and no political leader can just manipulate what's going on in our societies today. The votes and everything else, that's a different matter. But when it comes to the systems of governance, It looks like it's everywhere. It's the same stuff. You know,
Yeah.
why can't we? What are the things that you can say to our president? You know, to bring in such a transparent system of governance.
Yeah. Anyway, those are my thoughts, and as I've said,
Maybe put it this way, Mr. Mwaungulu. Maybe don't bring out all of your thoughts, because I need you to keep some of this so that they need to look for you, because the reality is that if we have people, if we have people who can do the job, why should you be on the bench when in actual sense you could be in the forefront leading? You know, so maybe keep some of these thoughts, and 2 minutes, not 2 minutes, actually 30 seconds, wrap it up. Whatever you wanted to say in final.
Well, the only thing I can say is that I'm so happy that I was given this opportunity to express my ideas. My ideas are always wild, but normally they are very pragmatic, and they aim at solving problems. And I think what I've tried to show here basically is that really the fight against corruption should be compartmentalized into what the judiciary can do, what the legislature can do, and what the president can do. If each one of them does their part correctly, then the whole system is going to operate. But my stress is that really the fight against corruption cannot be left to end institutions like the SED or the courts and so on and so forth. The president must come very clearly with policies, and some of us can come and help to formulate. Not that we already have them, but you can formulate, because some of us are para researchers and so on and so on. You come up with a policy, make it very clear, put a proper implementation strategy within the executive branch, and everybody will be darling. I mean, I myself, I don't want to discuss this, because this is probably the big chunk in my system on how to use IT now, ICT now, to be really the solution, total solution to any kind of corruption.
Listen, I'm more. You were saying I should thank you for your humility to accept to come on so we can talk and discuss these issues. I am praying that these discussions that have happened in 2 weeks will go through some doors in the authorities there that can help a nation be organized in the fight against corruption. Because I know it's on your heart. I can tell there is so much passion for you already to see this thing, functional. But you've brought to the fore why this system seems to be failing, but then also there are solutions to this thing. Listen, Mr. Mwaungulu, thank you so much for coming on tonight. Because of time, once again, we've gone over by half an hour. I would love to have you for 5 hours plus, but let's keep some. I'm praying that God will move the authorities that we locate you where you are. You need to go back home, by the way. Help our people.
Myself, it's not like I'm here.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm here. My heart is always at home.
Listen.
And if you look at the systems, the duality of my presence is guaranteed here as well as in my country. So to me, it's not like I'm out, I'm here or I'm there.
Listen, I'm praying. I'm praying something will come out of this. The Lord bless you so much. You have a good night, and I hope to speak to you soon.
Thank you so much, and God bless you too.
Thank you. I mean, that's how we come to the end of this show. Listen, guys, this is complex, and I know some of you, even probably up to now, just like me, are shaking your heads. But we have a wealth of wisdom and intelligence in this man. And I believe in my heart that, if we can do the right things, or such people can be coerced or be brought to the place where they can bring such wisdom into our into our systems, come around the well-wishers, the good well-wishers, people that are not just political, but well-wishers wanting to build a nation. If they can come around Dr. Laz and do the important things, I think Malawi has hope. I feel Malawi can move faster than we're moving now. The frustrations, which is most of us have expressed, is that we're moving at a slow pace. But there's wisdom here to move faster. And one of the things that I've quoted him saying is, take these matters, some of these matters that we have, not to the high court, take them to the magistrate courts, 214 something or 39, 239 if not 241 magistrates in the nation Malawi who are just sitting waiting for such issues that will not take longer to pass through their hands, because they have nothing to lose but to give right justice to to individual cases. I'm praying that somebody listens from the authorities. If we can earmark people that must come around and do the right jobs. I am vouching for this guy. I'm praying that people like him are brought to the fore. We don't need political people just all the time surrounding our president. This is bigger than a political party. It's bigger than a political system. It is about governing a nation. Governance. It's not, that's why there are 9 parties in it that are involved in governing a nation called Malawi. Guys, listen, we should not fail. We should not fail. With such wisdom and a wealth of knowledge, with such people, the likes of Mwaungulu and whoever. Even this is why now, when I look at what Dr. Laz has done sometimes with the few appointments that he did, like 2 days ago, there was an appointment of the chief commissioner. Is it the chief? The director general of the chief, the immigration and whatever services, is now the retired guy, brigadier so and so. And people were having sticks like, oh, why do you go to pick somebody from, somebody who's retired? We've got very sharp minds. These sharp minds are somehow rotten sometimes. I'm sorry, but these sharp minds, fresh as they are, they've gotten something from their university that has not helped them sometimes. They get into the system, they find the corrupt system. Instead of fixing it, they just join it. And we don't need it. We need a brigadier who can fix. In fact, I remember there was a discussion between the diaspora and Nancy Tembo, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, we were just talking, and I was given the option to say something, and I said something like, I was invited to the office of the chief immigration officer in Lilongwe. I don't care whether you're listening or not, but this was embarrassing in my life, because I'm thinking, me? Why? I just need my passport. I paid 65,000 kwacha or something like that for an express, which never came in 3 days. It took like a week plus, and we had to go to the chief immigration officer, to explain why we don't have what we should have, why electricity is not. What? I mean, do I need a chief executive officer of this whole department to explain to me why I'm not having my express passport? This is a system that is rotten, and we need to eradicate such, and we cannot do with the same old. And if we have to pick up somebody who is corrupt free and retired to come and help this system, let's do it. Let's do it, Malawi, because it's not about retirement. It's not about how old you are. It's about whether you've got the guts enough to help a people survive. Because many people are suffering with this kind of corrupt, minds that are still out there. The outcry has been, get them out. But how many are going to be sacked? How many people are going to be sacked? Because in every department, in any arm of the government, there are these people that need to be corrected. If they are found, sack them. Then we need the brigadier to come in and help the president. Then we need the IG, Inspector General Police, Mama, whoever, to come and help him. He cannot execute it himself. This is where, to the tune of Mr. Mwaungulu, put a minister, a whole ministerial that is dealing with corruption. Why can't we do it? Mr. President, it's with you. The bucks. I remember we were talking with my friends Bishop Shanks and Mr. Chalomvula. And one of the words, in fact, with Maharam Hango, and most of their words are the buck stops with the president. He is the man in charge. Here is an instruction. I think we have not put, according to Mr. Mwaungulu, we have not put emphasis and effort into how we're going to deal with corruption. He questions like this: what have you said? Who else has caught into this other than yourself, Mr. President? Because you speak And strongly we understand the message. We know that you are against corruption. But how many ministers really are up for it? How many recall or recite what you say? And according to Mr. Mwaungulu, maybe we need a whole ministerial that is functional in the area of corruption. Because when it comes to unity, we have the whole ministerial of unity. And people have spoken against this guy. I still vouch for Mr. Mtambo because I still feel that it's a huge task to unite a people with different sophisticated minds. Unity. How about corruption? The thing that's killing us. Why have we left it clean? Or why have we left blank without filling it? And this is a question which probably I may not feel, but somebody can take it to our president. And I'm hoping that, Mr. President, you are hearing from Mr. Mwaungulu. Why can't you employ a whole minister to deal with corruption? Listen, this has been more educational than I thought. And I thank God for Mr. Mwaungulu, hoping that something will be formed out of this. Thank you so much for being with me tonight. And I know that we've taken longer than usual, but I didn't want to cut him. The man is full of it. He wants us to understand. We can't just say, just do it quick, and we go like I do with the likes of Bishop Shanks, because these are our opinions. But this is a matter of intelligence being given out. And so we have to be patient sometimes to receive it. And so to Mr. Mwaungulu, once again, thank you so much on behalf of all my listeners and all my viewers. Guys, spread the word. Share it so it gets to the right people. We need action in the right places. We can have a corrupt-free Malawi. I believe that. There's no doubt about it. Listen, have a good night. This is just Monday. The week has begun. August is going. It's cruising fast. But I hope you have a good one and you come out better. The Lord bless you so much, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.